Folks, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California was supposed to be a symbol of progress. The $2 billion eco-friendly arena was intended to anchor a new entertainment district and serve as one of the key venues for the 2028 Olympics. But for many longtime black residents, it's turned into a nightmare filled with displacement and broken promises. Since the arena for the Los Angeles Clippers opened last year, more than 11,000 black residents have left Inglewood, replaced by wealthier newcomers, changing the city's culture and community feel. Now the Dome's so-called green projects are under a federal investigation for possible fraud. And residents say that traffic, struggles for small businesses, and rising rents have made life harder than ever. Critics point to billionaire Clippers owner Steve Ballmer's campaign donations and argue that city leaders have sold out African Americans who contributed to Inglewood's success. They're calling for real investment in schools, housing, and families, not just arenas. Capital B climate and environment reporter Adam Mahoney, who's been following this story, joins us now from New Orleans. Adam, glad to have you here. So for folks who don't know, just paint the picture of what Inglewood, California is.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Inglewood is a historically black enclave in Southern California. It was one of the first destinations for black migrants when they came from the South during the Great Migration, due to, a history of redlining and other racist and discriminatory housing policies, kind of forced people into this suburb of Los Angeles County. But what we've seen over the last decade or so is that kind of complete erasure and displacement of folks. Inglewood is no longer a majority black city. Since the entertainment district was proposed in 2016, and we've seen SoFi Stadium built, the most expensive football stadium in the world, built for the Rams and the Chargers. And then the Intuit Dome, the most expensive basketball arena in the world, built for the Clippers and the LA Olympics in 2028. We've seen over 11,000 black folks forced out of the city, while residents of every other race have increased.
Now, when you say forced out, what do you mean by that? How are they forced out?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a lot of those anchors of displacement and gentrification that we see. So in the immediate aftermath of these stadiums being proposed, rents doubled in some places in the immediate neighborhood around the arena. And since then, in that community, the median income has risen from about 50,000 to 71,000, which on paper you'd be like, that means people are getting more economic opportunities. But really, it has just reflected the reality that the folks that called this place home are no longer there anymore. And then at the same time, we've seen schools closed as, black children and black families have been pushed out. And a lot of the new residents there are not actually calling for public schools to be, rebuilt or to be funded. Rather, they're sending their children to, charter and private schools outside of the city. So a lot of those resources that you would depend on to make a place whole are just non-existent now.
All right. And so people can understand what we're talking about here. At the end of the day, massive facilities come in, billions being spent, entertainment complex. So all of a sudden, white folks who long ignored Inglewood were like, oh, we can roll up in there now. And that now then all the amenities. So what then happens is when they come in, they start buying, start building, all of a sudden property values go up because houses are now valued more. This is classic gentrification that we've seen in cities all across America. And for people who don't know, the leadership of Inglewood is black. I don't understand. And again, people also know Inglewood because that's where the Forum was, the Great Western Forum, where the Lakers played for a very long time. So that was really the only sports. But the people came to the game and they left. This is different with what they're doing here. With this stadium, entertainment district, they're basically trying to create, because the Clippers used to play in where the Lakers play. I don't know what I think it's still called Crypto Arena. I don't know what the hell it's called. So yeah, they wanted their own arena. So now they're trying to create, in essence, a second entertainment district that's out there. And so now all of a sudden you're going to go out there and now you're going to see gleaming new buildings and streets and restaurants and cafes and all these things. And the people who live there cannot afford to live there.
Yeah, that is exactly it. And at the same time that these arenas have been built up, there's also been luxury townhomes and apartments built up directly around the facilities, which are not built in mind for the people who have called Inglewood home for so long. And I think, residents that I talked with also, felt some type of way about the fact that, Inglewood, especially the eastern part of the city, going towards South Central, was really devastated during the LA riots in 1992. And there are still empty storefronts and empty lots from all the way back then, right? Thinking about over 30 years ago. But now they're finally seeing investment in their city, but it's not for them.
What are city leaders saying? Because I remember when this was, when this first started, oh man, the mayor was excited. He was happy. Oh man, what it's going to mean? And they were making all these promises. What are they saying now?
Yeah, I mean, the city officials, specifically Inglewood Mayor James Butts, he is kind of saying the exact same thing that he has been saying for the last decade, pointing to, increased tax revenue, increased investment and attention from out-of-state investors or even foreign investors when we think about the significance of the Olympics. In the mind of leadership, there has been a spotlight on the city. And with that spotlight has come, quote unquote, economic investment. But as we've seen time and time again, when we think about these big projects, that investment does not trickle down into the communities that have called this city home for so long. So that's really been it. It's just on paper, there is more money flowing through Inglewood. It's about who's catching that money, though.
How are residents organizing and mobilizing there to change what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of coalitions that have been born out of this moment. There's an organization called No Olympics LA that has been, it's a coalition of different community groups made up of like tenant unions, social justice organizers who are kind of connecting all of the dots here, right? Thinking about the environmental impact of having the Olympics there, having these sporting events there, and the increased air pollution from all of the traffic that has flown through the city, or thinking about rising rents and making sure that people can stay in their homes. These organizations are at the really local neighborhood level, trying to get folks involved and advocating for themselves, but also making sure, to put their best foot forward when we think about electoral politics and making all of these different intersections to make sure that the Black and brown folks that have called this place home for so long can stay there.
Questions from my panel. Michael, you first.
All right, Adam. Kind of along the lines of what Roland was saying, I live here in Detroit. We've seen stadiums built here. We've seen gentrification in Detroit. I wanted more information possibly about how elected officials are addressing the complaints from the African-American community. Number one, like rental assistance, different things like this, because anytime stadiums come like this, right? You know gentrification is coming, all right? So how are they trying to help African Americans who help put them in office?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And like I said, at kind of the forefront, the elected officials are still staying true to what they have been saying over the last decade, but there has been policies put forth. Most namely, there was a rent control and rent regulation policy that was passed during COVID. But the issue is that it happened after that major jump in prices, right? So immediately after SoFi started construction in 2019, rents jumped from around $1,200 for a 2-bedroom in the immediate neighborhood to $2,200. But the rent control legislation was then passed on that $2,200 baseline. So on paper, there has been some kind of legislative effort, but it just does not connect to the reality on the ground, unfortunately.
Matt?
Yeah, Adam. So my question is kind of two-part. First, is there any part of this land that's being used to be built to build the stadium that is using eminent domain or any kind of nexus with the government? And I ask because obviously that would give you certain due process rights that a purely private enterprise wouldn't necessarily give you, number one. And number two, have the LA Clippers or any entity involved in building this stadium done any kind of efforts where they've gone out and tried to either, basically buy people off, give them money, infuse money into the program, and I don't want to make my question too long, but I asked that because I live in Corpus Christi. They just built a new bridge. And before they built this bridge through the black neighborhood, they went through and tried to buy people's houses to try to appease people, right? And they say, we'll give you money for your house, even though they didn't have a legal means to do it. So I'm wondering if there's been any kind of public partner, privateship or partnership to that effect in this instance.
Yes. So to answer your first question, the build out of these stadiums took place on land that was technically vacant. So they are adjacent to the LA Forum, which still exists. But, since the Lakers left in the early 2000s, it's really kind of been a ghost town in that area. There was some eminent domain that took place, but it wasn't of homes, it was of businesses. And most important to note, Governor Newsom actually, for both the Intuit Dome and SoFi Stadium, allowed the owners of the arenas to bypass the environmental review period, which then meant they were blocked from being sued for different things related to the construction or environmental impact of these facilities. So kind of with that blank check, it allowed this to kind of get forced through very quickly. But in the aftermath, we have seen both the LA Rams, LA Chargers, and the LA Clippers do investment into the city. A part of the Clippers' move into Inglewood, they did set aside a certain amount of money to be given to the city of Inglewood. And in the aftermath, we've seen things like they've funded different events at local schools, textbooks, repairs, and things like that. But the issue is at the same time that some institutions have been propped up, some schools have been propped up, we've seen over half a dozen schools be closed in the last 4 years.
Candace.
So, Adam, you mentioned Governor Newsom, and we know that in 2021 that he and his wife also gave $1 million to his political campaign. And I'm wondering, what has he been saying these days in terms of some accountability? What are people saying to him? What do they want from him? And how has his response been?
Yeah, I mean, as we reported out this article, we did reach out to Governor Newsom's media team. We got a response back initially, and then they didn't actually address any of the questions. I think at the local level, really all of the focus, for better or for worse, has been with the city officials, and then in addition, the owners of these facilities. And I think Governor Newsom and maybe the state level actions that allowed this project to happen have kind of been ignored or gone under the radar because of that. And we know now, I mean, there's a lot more things on his plate, where it does seem like it won't necessarily be addressed at that level.
Well, all right, then. Well, excellent reporting there. For folks who don't know, just share about Capital B.
Yeah, Capital B, we're a national nonprofit newsroom with an all-Black staff. We report on Black communities across the country. I'm on the national team. We have a local newsroom in Atlanta and another local newsroom in Gary, Indiana. You can check out our website at capitalbnews.org and subscribe to our newsletter. All
right, then. Folks, y'all pull the website up. So folks, we want you to support, again, we got, Black-owned media properties that are for-profit, nonprofit. We had the Tribe on last week. And so we had the Tribe on last week. Now we have Capital B as well. So again, the website again?
capitalbnews.org.
capitalbnews.org. All right, then. Adam, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.